Hi, I'm Natalia Tejeda, and this is Experience CTN, where we learn more about CTN's volunteers and producers who have supported community media over the past years. I'm here with community producers Jim and Karen Schaefer. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you.
So let's get started. Can you tell me a little bit about how did you hear about CTN?
We got involved because I read about it in the newspaper, and then I was also at that time bothered by the current discussions of books on commercial television, which I thought were terrible. So I was thinking about starting up a program, so I called up and signed up for one of the introductory workshops.
And when was that?
22 years ago.
Wow, so you've been at CTN for a really long time.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what workshops did you take?
Well, the first one was the introductory, and then they had a series where you could learn, production and direction and all that stuff, and we took the whole thing.
Both of you did?
Right, the production, the whole series, so that we'd be qualified to do a program.
Never done television before.
No. And how did you like the workshops?
I liked them, but
yeah,
we had other workshops later that helped refine our skills, which we needed.
Yeah, very cool. So what programs have you produced here at CTN?
Pretty much our own program, Riprap, the program of academic books. And we started out in a kind of primitive thing, and I was telling you the story before about I debated whether I was going to be the host or not, because I'd never been in front of a camera. And this one guy thought he would do it.
Right.
And I didn't think he was the appropriate person, so I decided I would do it. So for the first 5 years, I struggled with that thing of being in front of the camera. But I managed to survive the experience.
And you're here today. How give you tips of how you conquered that fear, I guess, that broke down those barriers?
Just have to do it.
Just repetition.
No, you have to get into a stance of just doing it, and getting used to it, getting acclimated.
So, Jim, you host, and what else do you do for the show?
I select the books, talk to the guests, do all that stuff. I do post-production, and Karen does all the technology, the cameras and stuff.
Karen, what drew you to the technology side of production?
Yeah, I have a background in photography and journalism and visual communication, so I naturally became the videographer. It was kind of a family affair where everyone got involved. We had 4 kids, and everyone took a part of it. They were like in junior high and high school.
Oh, fun.
And we had some friends helping out, and like Patrick, our oldest, was interested in fundraising and web design. Dan, one of our twin sons, he did web design and computer technology, and Ted, business management, and then our daughter, Marie, she helped stage and make the guests comfortable, so we all had a role in it to make it work.
Very cool. So why a show about academic books? I know you were starting to say that you were disappointed by the quality of book review on television. Why academic books?
Well, I have a background in academic literature.
Okay.
And I happen to think it's the most exciting literature that you can get involved with. If you take a look at the programs we've done, you can see that. So we've done stuff that's really cutting edge.
Yeah.
And kind of push the envelope as far as what kind of programs we did. We've done programs on AIDS, on abortion, all kinds of things. One of our first guests was William Miller from the law school, and he was talking about the anatomy of disgust.
Okay.
And, first of all, he's a very smart guy, but you had to know that he was basing it on a discussion of Melancholy by John Burton in 1650.
Wow.
So, and then another early guest we had was Robert Haas, who's a U.S. poet laureate, and very nice guy, but very, erudite, and I enjoyed that interview. So it was with guests like that we established ourselves, but it was always, I felt, important to have a conversation. I was never the kind of host that would jam the microphone in the guest's face and essentially tell them what they had to say. I was just along for the ride. It was whatever the guest would do. And then we just let it unfold from there.
Right, cool. And where did you get the name from, Riprap?
Well, it's a poem by Gary Snyder, the former poet laureate, and it goes like this: lay down these words before your mind like rocks, placed solid by hands in choice of place, set before the body of the mind in space and time. Solidity of bark, leaf, or wall, riprap of things, cobble of Milky Way, straying planets. These poems, people, lost ponies with dragging saddles, and rocky surefoot trails. So in other words, we're talking about a metaphysical kind of element. Riprap also is known as the stuff you use to fill up space, but that's not what Gary Snyder was talking about.
No.
And that poem is on the internet if people want to look it up.
On your website?
No. On the
Oh, you
regular
mean like in the internet
yeah.
to look up the actual poem. Well, how about we take a look at your actual program?
Hello, this is Jim Schaefer, executive producer and host of Riprap, the academic book television program. My guests today are Reed Hamilton and Steve Rush, authors of an intriguing new book, Better Get It in Your Soul, What Liturgists Can Learn from Jazz. Welcome to Riprap.
Thanks. Good to be here.
If you don't have all that sound going on, then you have to look at the inner self,
Yeah.
or whatever is
Yeah.
on the interior, which I found that fascinating. And it's sometimes silence is very, very difficult to deal with. You know, the research has shown American conversation, there is no silence. The people talk on top of each other, and if there's a gap of more than 20 or 30 seconds, people get very uncomfortable. You know, and so I think a deliberate attempt to set aside that interruptibility.
And that's something that I learned from Bill Flynn, was just to listen for silence. And to appreciate its importance in liturgy. You know, that's how we get into the presence of God and situate ourselves for worship.
Well, we should point out the Nuestro hymnal did have some political repercussions with Congress, you know, and there was this reaction. You sing the national anthem, it better be in English.
It certainly did. It had repercussions of perhaps a sort that the people who made it didn't imagine would happen, right? The people who created the song were more about immigration reform, solidarity, you know, in the face of that. And then Congress, well, both houses turned around and said, basically, you can't, it's not allowed, or it's not, it's not allowed to produce recordings and give performances of the Star Spangled Banner or the Pledge of Allegiance in other languages.
Maybe this can be questioned too. What reality is?
Well, there's a synergy between event and interpretation of the event. You know, when you come into office and you think it's one set of circumstances and you arrive and find out it's something much different, the state doesn't have $2 billion in some account that can just wash
We
that all
wished
away.
we did, but yeah, no, it was a gift that kept on giving, and you know, and then compounded, of course, by globalization and the experience of losing all of these manufacturing jobs.
Well, that was great. You had definitely some interesting guests on there. Let's talk about the production of the show. Where do you film? I saw a variety of sets, so.
Yes, we did several on-location sets, and one of our early ones was in New York City. We interviewed William Bowen at the Mellon Foundation, and that was a road trip. At that time, we were using the big Panasonic Supercams, so we've gone from the huge Panasonics down to, you know, into the digital world. And when we went out to New York City, we had like 5 or 6 cases of equipment, because this was big equipment in the late 1900s, early 2000. And Jim dropped me off at the corner of New York City, you know, cars going by.
It was
and
right
everything.
after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
No,
So we had it.
it was, yeah, anyway. So we had to be careful. You know, I couldn't just leave the equipment, and then
No.
Jim had to find a place to park. And then, you know, he finally, seemed to take a while, but we finally found a place to park and got in. And then there was some confusion because there's a radio crew coming in the same day, and they thought we were a radio crew. And so they had assigned us a tiny room, and obviously we needed more. But finally we got set up in a much bigger space, and everything worked out with that. Then we also went out to Colorado, remember? University of Colorado at Boulder. Larry Fry, professor of anthropology there, yeah. Not anthropology, communications. He did communication activism. We did 2 books by him, and the one we were going out to Boulder for was teaching communication activism. But that one was a special treat because we could use the university studio.
Oh,
And
nice.
so that was totally different. I mean, using their equipment and everything. And then on location in Ann Arbor, we did a lot at University of Michigan. Rackham Graduate School, we did Earl Lewis, Dean of the Graduate School. And when we did that one, it's a huge auditorium. I had everything all set, cameras, audio, remember? And as we were starting, you know, got recording, and then all of a sudden I realized one of the cameras, like right now, if you notice, one of the cameras wasn't working. You know, I thought, wow, what are we going to do? But the
And the
camera
first
on
year-
Earl was working, yeah.
The person we were interviewing was the dean of the graduate school. And the camera on me stopped working.
Oh, no.
And the guy's pretty suave, but he was
Yeah.
starting to get nervous. So we went ahead and shot it,
Right.
you know, acting as though the camera on me was okay, and then we had to go back and reshoot it.
Oh, so did you like splice that together in post then?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
So we
yeah.
just were shooting Jim, so imagine the editing,
yeah.
splice all that together. So that was the major thing. And then when we did Fernando Cornel, professor of anthropology, at his house, tried to accommodate faculty schedules. And when I was plugging in lights and everything, I kept blowing the fuses. You know, this is someone's house; they're not meant for all that.
Right, all this.
So I figured out the combination to try and, you know, finally got it to work, and it turned out well. But I mean, we've had a lot of riprap struggles along the way.
Had a lot of riprap stories too.
Yeah.
One of them that's my favorite is Bobby Lowe wrote a book, Why Sex Matters, and she was using commonly employed research on nature versus nature debates about animals, but then she applied it to human beings.
Oh.
And as we were talking, we got laughing so hard that we had to stop videotaping for a while because it was, you know, really obvious.
Yeah.
One of the programs we just finished was on impeachment by 2 Harvard Law School professors. And one of the programs we're going to be doing is on the poison in the Flint River
Okay.
water. And, you know, that was really controversial at the time. And the woman who wrote the book, What Eyes Don't See, Mona, was very courageous in opposing, you know, trying to work for some kind of justice. But we've had a lot of, you know, kinds of things, and it pushed the edge of what people's awareness of. The reason I like academic literature is because it's based on research,
Right.
not just what people say.
Right. And is there a criteria you use to select the books that you're going to cover, or the topics that you're going to cover?
No,
No.
it's just, but except the quality. The
Okay.
quality has to be there.
So that's what's important to you.
And this book by Mona, Hana Atisha, who's Iraqi, by the way, is based on research. And she's a doctor at the U of M, Flint. And she's a pediatrician at Hurley Medical Center in Flint, and associate professor of human medicine. So she knows what she's talking about.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And she took on the established political people, you know, in a very courageous way.
Wow.
But the problem is that since she raised that issue, it turned out there's like 20 places across the state that have similar poison in their water, and there's thousands across the country.
Wow. Well, I mean, you've been doing this since 1996, and you've covered a wide array of topics. Where can people watch your show?
Well, CTN,
Okay.
And then when we started out, we were broadcast on WFUM, the U of M's station, and now we're on a channel on YouTube.
Very cool.
So we've gone national, international now.
Yeah, that's great. And do you think other people should use CTN services?
Well, that's something that I've thought about a lot, and I think, yes, they should.
Why?
Because you have to learn about the equipment, and we got the support on how to do that. You need the training to know what to do.
Right.
And then you just have to do it.
Yep. Well,
It's getting community involvement. We figure we're giving back to the community with Riprap in the sense that sharing information that people wouldn't normally have access to, you know.
and they can learn it here at CTN.
Right.
Well, great. Well, thank you both so much for joining me. And I want to say thank you to all of you for watching, and stay tuned for future episodes. In the meantime, why not come in and experience all we have to offer for yourself? Visit us online at a2gov.org/CTN. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at CTN Ann Arbor. I want to thank our crew, Robert Horn, Pamela Mohar, Gage Shaughnessy, and Alicia May. And I'm your host, Natalie Tejeda. See you next time.